I'm Sheriff Chad Bianco, and welcome to another edition of the RSO Roundup. Excited to have you here. Happy to have you listening and watching. We're going to have a good show today. We're talking today with Deputy Mike Calhoun, who is our chief pilot for our aviation unit. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
Very nice. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? For the RSO Roundup, we highlight everything in our department, including our personnel. And so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I've been with the department for 20 years now. I've been with the Aviation Unit the last 14 years. I started off as a tactical flight officer, and that's essentially the person that's talking to the guys on the ground, working the spotlight, working the FLIR camera. And then 3 years later, 2010, I became a pilot. So I've been flying for the unit since 2010. And in January of 2017, I became the chief pilot, my current assignment within the unit. Worked patrol in Paris, worked the jail in Blythe initially, worked set team in Paris at the old Paris station off of 4th Street. Then went to the Aviation Unit, have been there ever since and love it.
Very nice. You and all of your partners in there, you're always trying to get out and begging me to transfer you.
No. We are very blessed and fortunate, and every guy and female I work with too, we're very, very blessed and fortunate to be where we are in that unit, helping out men and women on the ground.
So that's one of the assignments that we have in the department, that once you find yourself there, you don't really want to leave it.
Yeah, you don't want to leave it, and I'm glad that you allow us to stay here as well, because you really want experienced pilots doing the missions that we do. You don't want a whole lot of turnover, especially in that regard. It's we can go there and we could stay there, and we're just accruing more and more experience with the aircraft and the missions we fly. So it's beneficial. It's safer for us. It's safer for the community that we rescue. That you have high time, very experienced pilots that can stay there.
Yeah, we pay close attention to all of you and your time on, and we may bug you a little bit too much about when are you leaving, when are you planning on retiring,
right.
Are you planning on going somewhere else?
Yeah.
Because it's something that we have to plan to get the next person trained up for.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it really some people think pilots kind of just grow on trees and you can just flip a switch and then they're ready, but in our unit, it's been a very proven method that it takes about 3 years for a pilot to become fully unrestricted in our patrol helicopter. So they don't get the keys to the kingdom day one. That's a very slow progression. They get there's a lot of restrictions that they'll have. They can only fly in the daytime for the first year before they transition to nighttime on night vision goggles, and that's a whole new set of challenges with night vision goggle flying. And so after that, then they gain more experience at nighttime. And at about 1,500 flight hours is when I start training them for their mountain rescue, search and rescue stuff. Daytime still only, a little more experience in the daytime, and then once they're ready for the nighttime, then they'll transition to their nighttime search and rescue, unrestricted altitude, all the way to the peak of Mount San Jacinto at over 10,000 feet. So it gets a little bit different the way the aircraft behaves and performs in that type of density altitude up at higher elevations like that. So it's kind of like it's a crawl, walk, run approach, and that's been very proven and very safe. And it's kind of the standard throughout all of law enforcement aviation that I've talked to from people and other agencies throughout the world and the country.
Yeah, I've heard from some of my friends and even some other law enforcement that they may have that ability to fly, or they took they've got their pilot's license, whether it's a plane or whether it's a helicopter, and
sure.
They say, "Oh, I jump right in there, and I could do that." And the reality is, I learned this from talking to you and some of the other pilots, is we've had pilots that have gone in that have already had their license and they don't work out. It's a different animal when you talk about a patrol function. It
is, yeah. It's a believe it or not, it's a big personality. There's a culture of personality that we really try to assess that in our interview with a tactical flight officer candidate. And we just had interviews last week for a new pool of candidates. And we really try to get a feel for what type of person this person is, the personality and that temperament that they have to become a pilot in the unit. Because I'm looking at were they a good cop, and will they be a good tactical flight officer? But I'm also thinking long term as a chief pilot is like, okay, will they also be a good pilot too later on down the road? Because I'm looking at the whole package here, because we bring that person over and we're going to marry that person for the rest of their career.
It's a big investment that we're investing in them.
Yeah. So in interest of public safety and the best for the unit as well. tell. It's like we need to be very good. Our picker needs to be really good in the front end. So we have a pretty lengthy interview and then a practical fly along. They kind of do the same thing in the interview, but with a little altitude, a little noise, and a confined helicopter. And we just gauge an aptitude to see how they'll do. And sometimes we've had former military pilots. Before I started in the unit, there was one that he just did not, I guess, have the humility really to be in the unit. He was a Marine aviator before, and being the tactical flight officer was beneath him, and he didn't want to learn that. He didn't want to take the time and have the patience to learn that side of the cockpit first.
Yeah.
And it was evident, I guess, early on that this guy's personality would not serve the unit well.
Yeah. Now, I've been up with you guys numerous times, and I enjoy watching you and seeing how everything happens. And when we're talking about, you have to make sure that they've got to be a good deputy first.
Right.
And the reality is that helicopter is a serious extension and benefit and tool for the deputies on the ground.
Absolutely.
And that TFO, I mean, as you're flying that thing around and directing it around and getting the best visual that you can you can get from above, he's got to be, or she has got to be, directing traffic on the ground. So it's easy to say, go over on the 1, 2, 3, 4 corner and all those things and go over on this intersection. But when you're up above and you've got to realize major intersections and directions, and as you're circling and direct that thing, that's a task.
It is, sir. I'm glad you recognize that. That's a very good nutshell of what a tactical flight officer does. Really, the pilot, it's the easy side of the cockpit to operate. The TFO has a very, very difficult job. You are task saturated. You have to be the type of person that's can take charge of a scene, of a call. Many times we are a quasi-supervisor. We're moving the pieces on the ground as we see them. Very much like an offensive coordinator is up in the skybox. He can see the entire play develop below him on the field. And so we're like that as well. It's like we can see the overall officer safety picture. We can you have to have someone that can really tactically diagnose what he's seeing on the ground and what those potential pitfalls could be, potential crossfires, or how to maximize the tools and the deputies we have right at this moment to affect the best likelihood of apprehension of that suspect. So it takes a really special person that can really compartmentalize the stress and think through that situation and kind of not vapor lock and get stressed. And
because
really,
there's many things going on at the same time, not just looking out there. You're looking at maps. You're looking at the FLIR and whether or not you've got heat sources down there. There's many things that are going on.
Yeah. Let alone
all at the same time.
Yeah, let alone a suspect that's not running from you or the other deputies. And you have to have that orientation well enough to know which way is that suspect running by just looking at maybe the camera or just looking outside without taking your eyes off of him, because if you look up and see where's my north, you may lose him. So we get overhead, we get over that scene, we kind of set the table like, okay, that set of houses is my north, maybe that old truck is my east. And we kind of set that. That way I don't have to look up as much anymore. I set the table, and then I can start calling what I see. And it evolves, especially like on a vehicle pursuit. There's a lot going on. There's the direction of travel. There's the actions of the suspect, what he's doing in the vehicle, which way he's going. And then also kind of pre-positioning your resources down the freeway at those off-ramps maybe, or in those other neighborhoods where to set up the spike strips, where to best effect that arrest in order to slow him down.
And this is, I mean, I listen to you on the radio all the time. I'm monitoring what's going on, and of course you guys are up on the air all the time, but sometimes I will hear you talking. Obviously, I know you're working, and I don't hear you talking. You're back and forth between piloting and the TFO.
Absolutely.
It's an interchangeable skill and tool, and you're all just rotating through that process.
It's great because there's not only is the TFO telling the pilot where to go, where to position, but with the level of experience that we have in the aviation unit now. I like to tell guys on patrol that at any given moment, doesn't matter which pilot or TFO you have on average of about 35 years of combined law enforcement experience, leveraging over $5 million worth of technology above your call. So maximize it, use it. That infrared camera, that spotlight, the PA, all those are tools that really help us, number one, keep them safer. to keep them safe. And then number 2 is to do their job more proficiently and more effectively. So that they can get 10-8 faster, or to get to that next call faster, or to maybe not have to use as many resources over that call, and a supervisor can pull a unit or 2 off to go handle maybe a priority 1 call that just came up. So with us overhead, we like to first of all keep the folks safe, and then how can we be a better service to you guys on the ground and help you get 10-8 faster and catch this bad guy or find this missing child faster. Right,
and you mentioned something that's a good segue into the next part of this, that your overhead is $5 million worth of equipment that's maintaining and control over this scene.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about our fleet. What are we flying up there?
So we have for patrol, we have 5 A-Star. They're made by Airbus helicopters. They're our workhorse. We've had them for 21 years now. It's called an H-125. Used to be called the AS-350. Single engine patrol helicopter that's really a multi-tool for what we've always done in the past, because we would do the search and rescue with it as well as the law enforcement side of it. So a typical day before we got our Rescue 9 helicopter was we would use the A-Star to go on patrol, looking for the bad guys, helping out the guys on the ground. And then if we got a search and rescue call where there was a lost hiker or injured hiker, then we would reconfigure that helicopter pretty simply, just pull the hoist out. Tactical flight officer then becomes the hoist operator, and then he's going to be anchored to the aircraft on the outside, and then we'll go out and look for the victim and hoist them out, and then get them home, get them off the mountain, and then go back to the hangar, reconfigure, and go back 10-8. Back into the law enforcement role.
Yes, and so our mountains here, we're doing mountain rescues all the time.
Yep.
We have the mountains in between us and Orange County down along the coast, and we have obviously the mountains in between us and the desert, and then we have our vast desert area that you guys are constantly going out there for searches and rescues.
We have very diverse geography and terrain in our county. Very large, 7,300 square miles of, from 10,834 feet, peak of Mount San Jacinto, down to 115 feet below sea level out in the thermal area, Coachella Valley. So very varying temperatures as well. In the summertime, it could be 120 degrees down in the Coachella Valley, and it could be that same day, it could be high 50s or low 60s up near the peak of the mountain. So big temperature swings, a lot of diverse, beautiful geography that really attracts a lot of people to come hiking. And it's a great place to work for the search and rescue role. Absolutely.
Yeah, that whole temperature swing plays havoc with you sometimes, and especially in the summertime.
Yeah, it can.
Afraid to land and not be able to take off again.
Yeah,
we had that little bit in Blythe that one time where I was a little worried about whether or not we were going to get off the ground again.
Yeah, it gets to be a certain temperature, and the manual says you shouldn't start the engine. So and we've been very close to that or at that.
Yeah.
In the Coachella
Valley. So the 125s, we're roughly talking about between $5 and $6 million.
Correct.
But we've got about close to $1 million worth of equipment in those things.
Yeah, we do.
For our law enforcement purposes, with radios and lighting and FLIRs and things like that. They're not a cheap piece of equipment.
They're not. It is a pricey. Helicopters in general are very high maintenance, pun intended, because there's a lot of moving parts. They wear out quicker because there are many more moving parts than, say, an airplane. That's why the training costs generally 3 times as much to train a helicopter pilot as it does to train an airplane pilot. Helicopters are more expensive to operate and maintain. So
it's one of those things. It's one of those tools that, my opinion, I'm sure you're going to back me up on this, and it might be me backing you up on this, is that it's one of those tools that we can't not have.
Absolutely. Got to have it. It is just, as far as the law enforcement side, having an aviation unit, a robust aviation unit, especially as large as our county is, it really stacks the deck in the favor of the patrol deputies and officers too of our allied agencies that don't have aviation units. We can cover so much more ground and so much more area, especially on those Alzheimer's patients that walk away, missing children. We can cover so much more ground quickly. Check those parks, check those canals, check those neighborhoods, and use the PA too. That PA is such an effective tool to get the community involved in looking for a child that may have been missing. And I've seen it happen where they saw that kid at the Carl's Jr. just now and called PSAP, and said, hey, he's over here at Carl's Jr., and they found him, and it's great. It keeps the families happier. They find their children, their loved ones faster, and gets the deputies back in service quicker too, instead of having to pull so many more resources to use.
Yeah, it's invaluable. It's
absolutely
what we're able to do for the residents of Riverside County, and
Yeah.
it's everyone in Riverside County, whether you
Yeah.
live in a city or you're still a Riverside County resident, and we're there
Sure.
to serve you in that aspect.
Yeah.
So we have 5 of those, correct?
Correct. Yeah,
So those are on a rotate basis to make sure we always have one flying.
we do. Yeah.
So we have them roughly almost 24/7.
We do. We have availability. Any of one of us can be called in for in an on-call status to come in, say, in those off hours that we don't have any coverage. We do have a crew that is on call that can be called in for, say, primarily for a search and rescue mission, or it can be also called in for like a special mission, SWAT mission, something that happens, or a critical missing child, Alzheimer's patient, or something else that the guys on the ground patrol needs a helicopter asset for. To help, we can call somebody in.
So those 125s, I know there's other agencies that have a little bit smaller of a bird than we do.
Right.
Ours is the good workhorse patrol. It's got the pilot, co-pilot, and really 3 seats in the back, but 2 functional ones, really, especially with the gear that you guys have. So it's a little bit limited on what you can put in the air.
Right.
So with that, now we have our new one.
Right.
Our H-145.
Yeah, this
and
one right
you
here, the
brought a
model.
little replica of it.
Yeah.
This is our newest acquisition.
Yes.
And this thing is hands down. I'm unbelievably happy and proud that we were able to get it. That not only that we had the money at the time, but that our board let us make that jump, because
Yes,
this is a game changer for
It
you
is.
guys.
It is. And I'll brag all day long about this thing. And first of all, thank you for really pushing for that. I watched the Board of Supervisors meeting where you got us this aircraft, and it has been such a game changer, not only for us as the operator of it. It is a safer aircraft. It is a more appropriate aircraft for search and rescue. That it is a light medium twin engine helicopter. It has instrument flight rules capability, which means we can get out of our airport when the clouds are really low, the weather's really bad. We can get out of there safely and legally with this helicopter, where we can't do that with the A-Stars, with the patrol aircraft. So this aircraft allows us to save more people in less amount of time, essentially. We've had missions where we've saved families of 5 all at the same time out near a Painted Canyon desert
Which
area.
we could not have done that.
That would have taken probably 3, maybe 4 flights in the A-Star, which we'd still do. But when it's 110, 115 degrees out there, and in one case there was a 3-year-old involved at over 90 degrees, out of water for a while. We got that whole family off in one flight, and it was great. And so it's a great step forward. Leading law enforcement, we're the third law enforcement agency in the nation to have this particular helicopter. So there are other agencies near us that are actually interested in this aircraft, and I really hope that they can get it as well, because it's just better for the victim. It's better for the air crew that we have this more appropriate, safer, greater capability aircraft.
Yeah. Now you've taken me. I've been with you and some of the other pilots several times up to places where we're doing our rescues. I've been in this one, and I've been in the 125. And even me not knowing anything about anything, I can tell what a much more stable.
Yeah.
And I feel safer, and I'm not the one flying it. So it has to be just a completely different.
It is. Yeah. It's such a. As far as pilot workload, it's tremendously less for the pilot and the co-pilot, and the hoist operator as well. It has a automatic flight control system. One of the things that it allows us to do is when we're in a hover, saving a victim with the hoist. It's like it's an autopilot for the hover, and it keeps us in that position based on our GPS position. So it keeps us very stable, and that's really good for the hoist operator, so that there's minimal movement of the aircraft when we're trying to put that hook into the rescuer's hand, and it minimizes the swing as the victim's coming up, which is safer for them. It's safer for us, and it's just and as opposed to like in the A-Star where we still do it and we've always done it, but we're doing everything by hand. It's just we're flying by hand. It's fighting the wind, we're fighting the terrain, and we're trying to, it's a very perishable skill. So once we transition to that, it's basically you push a button twice, another one once, and you're just monitoring. And if the hoist operator needs me to move one click left is our terminology. I move a button once, it moves me 1 meter in that direction based on our GPS position. Okay, come back 3 clicks, 9 feet, moves us back, and it really holds us there, and it really helps us to maintain that precision over.
Yeah, I was amazed at how stable and solid it was just sitting there.
Yeah.
And from down here looking up, you would never know it, but there's some pretty rugged terrain up in our mountains where we're going in. We're going to rescue people because they're either injured or they've gotten stuck to where there's no way out for them.
Right.
And it's some of it are some pretty scary places for you to actually fly in with the blades feet away from trees or from a cliff, from a sheer cliff.
Yeah.
That's not your normal.
It's not
what you signed up for as a cop.
Yeah, that's a very outside of normal operation task that we would do. But we do train very frequently with this aircraft. We're all the 4 of us that can fly it. The pilots and the hoist operators were very, very comfortable, very proficient in it. We took a very slow baby steps approach when we first took delivery of the aircraft. We got our initial training from the factory, but that was only 7.5 hours. And so then we spent 40 hours per pilot each, getting to know all the systems, daytime, nighttime, how it behaves in a hoist, how it's going to behave in the mountains. Because it was really a lot. We're the 4 most experienced pilots in the unit that were the first to fly this, and it's still a handful. It's a lot to know. There's very complex systems in this aircraft, and just getting the feel and the touch of this aircraft is how different it is from hand flying an A-Star.
And you're still doing that also. You're still going back and forth between the two.
Yeah, we still have to maintain proficiency in those A-Stars because this can go down for scheduled maintenance and unscheduled maintenance, and the mission still has to go forward. So if someone became lost on the mountain, we would revert back to the A-Star.
That sounds like a very good plug and a reason for us to double our efforts with this one and maybe have another one.
Absolutely. It's that would be a very good deployment model for have one on the east end, one on the west end for that very reason. For response times mainly, we can get out there quicker if we had one positioned in the east end. And we do get a lot of business out there in the desert, so it'd be good to cut that response time in half for the desert.
So how many pilots do we have?
We have 8 going on 10 right now. I have our new unit supervisor, Sergeant White. He's in flight school right now, as well as our next pilot, Dan Zipperstein. They're getting their commercial rotorcraft ratings right now. Zipperstein should be done at the end of the month, and then Sergeant White should be done about the middle of January. So they're going to come back, and I'm going to transition them into the A-Star to get them initially qualified. It's about a 50-hour training syllabus to get them up and going in that. And we're thankful and glad to have a supervisor that's actually a pilot now and knows what we do, has a very apples-to-apples working knowledge of what it is we do and the terrain that we fly in, the conditions that we fly in. So it's great to have that. And so yeah, we have we'll have 10 total pilots. We have 6 tactical flight officers, and we have 6 EMT deputies, which are great. They're fully trained up and qualified on the EMT side now, and we're utilizing them in our Rescue 9 program. So it's nice that we have a pretty much fully autonomous unit as we fly out over the call. We have EMTs that can provide that basic life support for the victim.
That's one of the aspects I didn't realize, or I don't know if we all thought it through to the end when we first got the helicopter with search and rescue missions. But shortly after we did it, was like, well, we're still pilot, co-pilot, and maybe a hoist operator.
Yeah.
We need somebody else to drop down there and take care of these people that are severely injured sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was just that natural progression to get some at least EMTs in there. We may even someday we may need to go higher and have a little bit more training for those guys.
Yeah.
But the mission that we have with search and rescue is certainly one. Number one, it's required by law for the Sheriff's Department. We're responsible for all search and rescue within the county. But that entails us helping people that are out in the middle of nowhere, and they may need drastic emergency care before
Yeah.
we get them to an ambulance or even if we have to fly them to a hospital. So
Yeah.
it's certainly a need.
Yeah, if we can get that pre-hospital treatment done in the helicopter or even on the scene, where we're the only entity that can do search and rescue daytime and nighttime as well. Not very many agencies do a nighttime search and rescue too. We're one of the very few. In fact, they in our OES region, they're already inquiring if we can go to Mount Whitney and be available in the rotation. That if there was someone on Mount Whitney like tonight that had to be pulled off, could we be a resource that could go up there for OES and affect that rescue? So we're looking forward to doing that training next year in the springtime, get familiar with the area, and be available for that kind of mission if it was at nighttime. But yeah, it's good pre-hospital care to get typically with us, it's always a rolled ankle, broken ankle, some abrasions, slips and falls that we can treat before the hospital, or before handoff to like AMR. It's typically how it usually went. And we get them out of that position of peril that no one else can get them out of to, say, Mercy Air or AMR, the ambulance, to get them to the hospital. And so our EMTs can then, stabilize that leg beforehand or stop some bleeding, treatment before they get to the ambulance. And so that's valuable, and it's good for the public.
Yeah, very nice. And then with this larger helicopter, also something we didn't necessarily talk about, might have mentioned it briefly, but with the added payload, we can use it as a transport for our SWAT teams.
Sure.
Or for extra personnel, loading them into the mountains or loading them into certain tactical operations scene where we don't have time to drive it in, or something like that. So this is a game changer all around for us, even for a patrol situation and our search and rescue.
Yeah, we've utilized just about a week ago. We were able to put 5 fully outfitted SWAT deputies into the aircraft and fly them out to La Quinta immediately to help assist on a scene of a very active scene, because there was some holiday traffic involved that once the ground units were able to catch up, they had an extended drive time to get there. So as simple as a phone call, hey, how many SWAT guys can we take? We'll be there in 10 minutes or so. Hey, I can take 5. So got 5 guys. We were able to, from Hemet to La Quinta, less than 25 minutes.
Yeah, and something on the ground at certain times can be 2 hours.
Yeah.
And we don't have 2 hours sometimes.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Other things too. We can. It's a platform for, God forbid, a mass casualty event. We have something where we need to get
multiple people out
and treated on board a helicopter before they get to the hospital. As it's a good thing. Hope it never happens, but it's another thing that we can use this aircraft for. It's very versatile for that kind of mission, and with the personnel that we have trained on board, can help affect that much quicker before the hospital and save lives.
Very nice.
And just want to also hit too on the search and rescue thing. I just want to tell the folks that you're not going to be charged for. We get that a lot from folks, and I just want to tell people that we have to save you. It's we're not swiping a credit card at the aircraft. Believe it or not, we have had people that would refuse rescue for that very reason. So, it's
our responsibility as law enforcement to serve and protect our community.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you say that, because I post a lot when we do rescues on social media, and I know you all do.
Yeah.
And I read everything, and I get those posts about, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to pay for this. And I saw a GoFundMe account that I actually stopped because I said, look, I contacted them and said, we were happy to help you. We're happy you're safe.
Yeah. This is what your taxpayer dollars are for. This is our job.
Yeah. And for those people, there's always those haters that like to talk bad about them. And I hope you charge them.
Charge them.
That's an unfortunate thing to say. It's kind of a misinformed thing to say. You can't help falling and injuring yourself, or they get put in a situation where they just need our help.
Yeah, folks are out doing what they love. I highly encourage it. Go out hiking. It's great to go hiking. We have a beautiful county. And and sometimes through no fault of your own, you get hurt. Things happen. Sometimes some people could plan better, but we're not going to hold it against them.
Yeah.
we're here to save lives and help people, and so
along those lines, along that, this was nice for me. I'm a horse guy. You guys just rescued a horse.
We did.
That was unfortunately got itself in a bad situation through its rider.
Yeah.
And a little bit injured. It got a little bit injured, but it spooked its way into a place it couldn't get out. And you guys were able to get in there and get it?
We were, We were able to effect a rescue of a horse. I think the day before Thanksgiving, the rider got bucked off, and horse got spooked and jumped into the place that the horse ended up in was truly amazing that he didn't break a leg, because it was very large boulders, and then there was kind of into like a valley, and he was on this like little patch of grass with a tree. So she found him, and that day it was too windy. Thanksgiving was too windy, and so we got the call the day after Thanksgiving. So she spent the night with the horse, those 2 or 3 nights, and we got the call, and we got everything together. We have some great partners. Riverside City Fire Department, they have their horse animal rescue team. They have a very elaborate sling that we use to hoist out large animals, particularly horses. And that sling takes a lot of training. There's a lot of fail points on that thing if you don't get it right. So we train with them once a year. They have a dummy horse, this rubber horse that weighs 800 pounds, and we come out and train. It was great. So it worked really well to get that rider's horse out of there, and it's a lot that goes on. It's relatively simple to rescue a human being in this thing, but when you're attaching an animal,
we can tell a human what to do and what not to do. You kind of can't tell that horse that.
The horse has to be drugged and tranquilized, and there has to be veterinarians involved, and so it's a very elaborate operation, but it went very well. It was my first horse ever, so a bit nervous there, not going to lie. Don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
That goes bad on.
Yeah, me either. So thank you.
Yeah. But
some of those things that you said, you talk about those other agencies where you guys are not forced, but you're lucky to be able to work with all different agencies, with all of our police agencies, with all of our SWAT teams, the training that goes on with all of them, our search and rescue teams, both in the desert and our mountain rescue team. You don't just show up to work and fly a helicopter. There's a lot of training going on. There's a lot of interagency assistance and training, and it's a full-time affair for sure.
It is. We're training constantly year-round, especially with our really good partners like RMRU, Riverside Mountain Rescue Unit. We train them twice a year to be hoisted in a helicopter, and we insert them and extract them on large searches for missing, lost hikers, as well as large searches that need to be conducted for children too. Maybe an extended missing child, and we can pull them in as well as an additional resource to cover in the suburbs a search, as well as Desert Sheriff Search and Rescue, great partners to Palm Springs Mounted Police, and we have to train with them. They have new people, they have attrition, so new people need to be trained initially, and then even for the people that have been around a while, they still need to ride the hook and learn all the refresh on all the terminology and all the choreography that goes on, being able to leave a perfectly good helicopter down a hoist into the ground and look for somebody or save someone and get them prepared to ride the hook back up. So a lot of things going on with there. And it's a very dynamic.
Well, the community, I know the community loves you all. They post all the time about you, or one of the things that I like seeing every once in a while, you guys will take a picture from the air of a kid usually that's painting a little message in their driveway for you as you fly over.
It's usually a star and the number 9 for Star 9. We like those. We put that out. Those were really big during like COVID when kids were pent up, and we say, hey, let's have a little driveway contest, and a lot of kids got involved. It was great.
Yeah, it's good. Good community involvement. Yeah, you guys. I didn't know you all were doing this, but I was forwarded several videos of Halloween night that you entertained people as you were flying around entertaining.
Oh, nice.
The trick or treaters. That was all good.
Good,
it doesn't take anything for us to be involved with the community and make them know that we're there for them.
Yeah, it doesn't. We're already up flying. Doesn't cost anything, and it makes someone's day.
Absolutely,
we love our jobs, and yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we love our aviation unit. You guys are doing a heck of a job.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming out here today.
Thanks.
And I just want to thank everybody for joining in, for listening, for viewing, and we will see and hear you next time at the RSO Roundup.